Can you tell us about your life before January 6th?
Yeah, basically nothing but a family man and a working man. Worked at the company, a cabinet company up in Northeast Ohio for going on 20 years. Other than that, with my family, camping, playing basketball, playing games with my son.
Stephen Ayers told the committee that he lived a pretty normal life before January 6th, but then he'd been radicalized on social media.
I was, pretty hardcore into the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I followed, President Trump, on all of the websites, he basically put out, come to Stop the Steal rally, and I felt like I needed to be down here.
And the consequences for his actions that day went far beyond criminal charges.
Basically, I lost my job. Since this all happened, pretty much sold my house. It changed my life, and not for the good. Definitely not for the, for the better.
Ayers said he deleted his social media. He no longer believes the big lie. After the hearing, he approached each Capitol police officer pretty emotionally, and he offered his apologies. With us tonight, NBC News senior reporter Ben Collins. He covers disinformation and extremism on the internet. Ben, I was thinking of you when I was watching him, right? Watching someone real time really talk about online radicalization. But I was also thinking, last night I interviewed Alex Holder. That's the guy behind the new Trump documentary. And he said a couple months after the election, he was down at Mar-a-Lago. Trump was furious. He was angry. And he asked somebody, is it because he lost? And they said, no, it's because he doesn't have access to social media anymore. Talk to us about the power and influence one can have on social media and the ability to radicalize people.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of different stories about how people ended up at the Capitol, but really you keep hearing the same version of the same one, right? A guy on social media or a woman on social media who realized that this was going to be the last hurrah, who realized that the guy they had been following, almost like a deity for the last few months and years, was going to give his last speech there. And he needed help. He kept pointing to this one day. Donald Trump did not point to one day very frequently. Didn't say he needed people to come by for one day to help him out. And they all wound up going there. This is basically the same story as Rosanne Boyland, who died on the steps of the Capitol. What's interesting about these stories is that the social media stuff, it seems to have replaced what we used to call the monoculture. The monoculture was like how everyone watched the same episode of Seinfeld, how everyone went to church on Sunday. Everyone basically did the same stuff. If you were following Donald Trump on social media, he gave you a standard set of characters to follow and hate, a specific set of dates to follow, get really behind it. If you were into QAnon, it would be even more dates. It was almost biblical. He had specific posts to point to give you directions. And that collapsed for them very quickly. They realized that this wasn't going to happen anymore at the end of the Trump presidency. And a lot of people went there on January 6th as a way to vent back against that. And they got caught up in what was effectively a civil war launched by the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys as well.
But Trump is still spreading the big lie on any platform he can. I want to share what Ayers said about that.
It makes me mad because I was hanging on every word he was saying. Everything he was putting out, I was following it. I mean, if I was doing it, hundreds of thousands or millions of other people are doing it, or maybe even still doing it. It's like he just said about that. You got people still following and doing that. Who knows what the next election could come out? They could end up being down the same path we are right now. I mean, just don't know.
Ayers literally went to the Capitol because Trump told him to do it and left when Trump said it's over. He is warning us about what could happen in the future. What are you seeing on these sites recently?
There is sort of good news and bad news here. The good news is the fealty to Donald Trump has waned, frankly. A lot of these people have fealty to the movement instead. And the movement has grown more vicious. It's revanchist. It's basically trying to win back parts of the culture where they believe they were lost. They believe that they have lost. So things like trans rights. They are aggressively, constantly attacking LGBTQ Americans everywhere that they can do it. Things like CRT or, whatever, they will go back down the line through every culture war they believe they lost and try to imperialize it each way. It doesn't necessarily depend on Donald Trump, but I will say even if it's not Donald Trump, whoever plays that playbook, the Donald Trump playbook, the best is the guy who's going to win this. It's the guy who's going to win the hearts of these people on these message boards. Some of the places they talked about in these forums that they talked about in this hearing today that were filled with racial slurs and horrific stuff, talking about killing people in the day of the rope and, how it's time to kill all the minorities and stuff. Those places are still very, very active.
Yes.
But they are not, their fealty of Donald Trump isn't there anymore. It's to this culture war now.
Yes, but before Trump, there was never someone who was in the White House who was wink, nodding at them, right? You had a presidential debate where the sitting president said, stand back and stand by. So without someone with that kind of visibility, influence, and seniority, does the movement have such power? Is there someone else who right now could say, come to Washington, and they would?
I don't think so, but I don't think Donald Trump could do it at this second with that same level of gravitas. That said, he started this. There's no other way to put this. He created this vehicle that anyone else can grab onto that is an accelerationist vehicle. It's going to try to stampede through every culture war issue. It's going to try to stampede through people they believe that are in their way of pretty standard old American biases against, LGBTQ Americans or minorities in general. That's the plan, is to go through those things. So look, he may not have the same power he had 2 years ago, but he absolutely created a thing that you cannot stop now.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is sitting in her peach tree dish, trying to do it as we speak.